true crime podcast where best friends and next door neighbors, Willow and Lillian, spill the tea on murder, mysteries, and other things that go bump in the night. So get your favorite teacup ready and let's get into it. Welcome to Cruelty Podcast. This is Lillian, and with me is Willow.
Hello.
And it is once again nighttime we're recording.
Yes,
I had to eat dinner. It's hungry.
It was so weird to record during the day last time.
I don't like it. I like
Although
the coziness.
there were some like crows that were like cawing outside of your window.
That was
nice.
quite atmospheric and cool. I mean, I'm sure y'all didn't hear it because our microphone won't pick it up, but it was neat. So we have a new theme: Best Friends Who Kill.
Yes.
Is that what we're calling it? Or
I
am I
think
just
so.
an idiot? Okay. I don't know. I say it wrong frequently. And so this is our first case. I am not familiar with this case, strangely.
Yeah.
But I have heard of it.
Yeah.
I just don't know anything about it.
Prior to researching for this month, I hadn't really known too much, but I had just known, again, about
Vaguely,
it. Yeah.
vaguely, yeah. So we're going to get right into it, and that's because that's how we do.
Good job.
Stupid today.
Same. It's all good. But yeah, this is the case of Sheila Eddy, Rachel Schoaf, and Skylar Neese, also known as the Mean Girl Murders, which is kind of ironic because I didn't know that it was called the Mean Girl Murders. I was just always calling it that in my mind because that's just kind of the energy that these girls put off. But some of the news headlines as I was researching called this the Mean Girl Murders.
And that's how I had seen it, by the way. And I'm assuming if you don't get the reference, it's based on a movie called Mean Girls.
If you haven't seen Mean Girls, oh my
Go
goodness.
see it
It's
once.
just a classic.
I
It's
mean,
like Legally Blonde. You just
I
have
quote
to see
it frequently. Yeah,
I
like
live
you
my
can't
life
sit with
quoting it.
us. Yeah.
She doesn't even go here.
She doesn't even go here. It's like one of my favorite movies of all space and time. Lindsay Lohan is so cute in it. And it's just a good movie.
Yep.
Go forth and watch it.
Please. It's really great. But yeah, most people do know the movie, and so they'll understand the references whenever we get through this because this was very much that era. These are three teenage best friends who did everything together. They were practically joined at the hip, at least from the outside looking in. It's 2012, and Sheila, Rachel, and Skylar seem just like regular 16-year-old girls, always taking selfies together, always posting on Twitter. They were always at each other's houses, and always giggling. People that knew them said that you couldn't find one without the other two. They were completely inseparable, and their parents pretty much treated them as if they were sisters. Each parent kind of treated the other girls as if they were extensions of the family. And the girls even called themselves the Three Musketeers. So that kind of tells you just how tight-knit these three were. Now, Skylar Neese was the smaller of the three. She was more innocent, and she grew up right there in the small town of Star City, which is outside of Morgantown in West Virginia. Her parents said that she grew up just constantly giggling. Like everybody talked about her giggle. It was just contagious, and it was all the time. She was just a little sweetheart. She had these big bright eyes, and she was just like full of wonder. She was highly intelligent. Her parents used to just brag on her about how she learned how to read and write at a very young age, like early toddler years. And she was just really bright, really intelligent child. Her dad said that growing up, because of their very heavy work schedules, they rarely had time to like really sit down and have those moments together. So during their work schedule week, there was one day where his schedule and where he had a free day and her mom was at work. So he called that Daddy-Daughter Day.
That's
and
cute.
It was really precious. On that day, Skylar got to do whatever she wanted. And so she knew she had at least one day of the week to look forward to, that like her dad had something special. She could do anything she wanted. And I don't know, she was just a really sweet, very cute, very silly, intelligent little girl.
Yeah.
And when she met her best friend Sheila, they were in about the second grade. They actually met at the community center in town. Sheila actually went to a different school, but they ended up going over to each other's houses pretty much every day. So I don't know, they were pretty much joined at the hip as soon as they met each other. And their families became extended families. And Sheila would come over so much, she would just walk right into the house without even announcing herself, without even knocking. And honestly, they preferred it that way. It was like her home was their home. And her parents actually split whenever she was 4, and her dad was disabled and didn't work. Her mom worked all the time. And so her parents were, I don't know, kind of broke, kind of busy. She didn't really want to hang out over there anyway, so she was always at Skylar's house. And yeah, they stuck together. They helped each other out. And eventually Sheila's mom remarried and they moved closer to Skylar, and they finally got to go to the same high school, which was an absolute dream for the two girls. They were finally connected, and they really did kick off high school as thick as thieves, best friends forever. And it just seemed like things were starting to get better and better. Sheila became more confident and more outgoing, and Skylar fed off of this and really loved the energy that they had. And Skylar became even more increasing to like excel in school, so much that she was starting to look at becoming a criminal lawyer. And, you know, she was looking forward to colleges and all kinds of things. She was doing really good. And in their freshman year at University High School, a new girl came to town, a redheaded theater girl named Rachel Schoaf. She had moved from another school, a Catholic private school, and her parents were divorced, but her mother had remarried. And she came from a very strict Catholic upbringing, but also very rich. So she kind of had that like rich girl thing going on. And, you know, she was also into the theater. She was wanting to be on Broadway some days. So being in people's face, you know, on stage, being the center of attention was really something that Rachel loved. And Sheila saw this and she just really ate it up. They instantly became best friends. And so the three of them, this is when the three of them kind of became a unit. And slowly but surely, they started out by doing everything together. And I mean, everything, so much that even Skylar's other friends, because they said that whenever Skylar and Sheila were best friends, you know, they would have other friends. They would have other relationships with other people.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, like it wasn't a thing. They were obviously best friends.
I was in a trio like that too.
But once they became a trio, nobody else mattered.
That's right. We would hang out with other people.
Yeah, you
but
become
like,
your own group.
for example, if one of the trio said, "Let's do something," you would drop those other bitches.
Oh, absolutely.
Instantly
Absolutely.
for the girls.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I really do feel for Skylar in this group because I'm always that person in a trio. I've always been the one to like navigate into a trio friendship, but always been the third wheel. I'm always the one that gets kind of into booting, and the other two become best friends
That
forever.
weirdly happened. Yeah, that exactly
every
happened
single
to me.
friendship I've had until you. Actually.
Yeah, because I've been that bitch and I don't like it.
Maybe that's what it is. Like we just didn't have.
The third wheels made their own go-kart. And it doesn't run very well, but it does its best.
That's a weird analogy.
I told you I'm dumb today.
Same though. But yeah, I don't know. It just, and Sheila's friends said the same thing, is that like once Rachel came in, they didn't matter. They didn't exist to Sheila.
It was just her personality was so big.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sheila and Rachel really fed off of each other. They're like the more, you know, high-strung personalities, the adventurous ones, the one that like want to get into shit. And Skylar was just always amazed. Like she was just like, "Wow, y'all are great." But I don't think any of like the major shenanigans that they got into were really any of Skylar's ideas. I think that she was just kind of there for the ride and really enjoyed the entertainment of having these really intense friendships. But yeah, they would do like the typical teenage thing where they would, go out into the woods, they would smoke, they would drink, they would sneak out, they would date boys, they would party, basements, and they would do all the things that teenagers do when they think they want to act grown, but really they're not. They're just getting into trouble, and soon they slowly started to separate. Rachel and Sheila started to exclude Skylar from outings and conversations. They'd go out and not invite her, only to post about it later and brag about how much fun they had. A lot of my friends did this, and it was really, I just feel Skylar on this one. It kind of hurts your heart, because they would plan outfits beforehand, show up to school matching, and then Skylar is visibly excluded.
Now, see,
you know what I mean?
In this particular case, I've heard social media played a big part.
Huge part. Twitter is like so much.
Yeah.
involved.
However, I would like to point out all those things happened with me, and this is in the time before social media, it was late 90s.
Right.
They would like call on the phone and plan their outfits together.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'd show up and be the only one that looked different, and I felt sad. They would go to parties they knew I wouldn't go to because there'd be certain illicit substances I wasn't into at the
Right.
time, and I really wasn't into boy chasing either, and they were super into that.
Yeah.
And I did feel super excluded, and like they would pass notes to just each other in front of me. And that's the equivalent. That's all the equivalent of social
Of like
media is.
texting or messaging about somebody right in front of them.
Well, I mean, we didn't have that either.
But I'm saying that's
But that's
the
what
same.
the notes were like. And
Yeah.
so I just felt, or they'd do private jokes. It's almost to the point where it was a foreign language.
Well, yeah, because they would make jokes about you behind your back and then
Yep.
bring them up in a
Yep.
conversation that had nothing to
I
do
was
with
the
it.
big wet blanket who wasn't as much fun as they were.
Yeah.
Joy.
Yeah.
But it like ruined the last 2 years of high school for me, utterly.
Yeah. Mine was earlier on. My last 2 years of high school, I was pregnant and then married. So
Yeah, that
didn't
changes
really
things.
count.
Yeah.
But yeah, junior high and the previous years before that, it was just all rough. It was just really rough.
I
Junior high
credit
was really
that
bad.
friendships falling out to the why I got married early.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get married at like 18, you're done with your high school friends. They aren't
Right.
coming over anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I had a relationship quite like the three of them did, where they started to gravitate towards each other. There was like some secret love affairs going on between the triangle too, and it was just like you get your heart broken so many times over because there's, your first loves and teenage loves, and then also teenage friendships are such bigger than any type of friendship you'll ever have.
In your entire life. And people just
yeah.
don't get that unless they've been through it. But yeah.
Especially assigned female at birth.
Oh, yeah.
It's, I don't know, it's just a little, I think because of all the rage and hormones. But yeah, Skylar's Twitter is still up, and the tweets leading up to her death are very eerie. 4 days before her death, Skylar tweeted, quote, "People can be so mean for absolutely no reason."
Oh, baby.
The next day she says, quote, "Shout out to my dad for getting me a McDonald's."
It's so pitiful.
Now, this sentence right here means a lot more than you would think is just on the surface. The thing is that when Sheila got her car, that is one thing that they would go do all the time is go get McDonald's. Skylar just really loved McDonald's, and she was feeling sad. She was heartbroken that her friends were being mean to her, and so her dad went to McDonald's to get her a pick-me-up. He knew it was something that would make her happy.
It's so
And
sad.
in the comment section, because again, this is still up on Twitter, you can go see it. And in the comment section, friends are like updating her. It's like a live like memorial basically. And so friends are in the comment section, like updating her on how life is after her death. One friend had constantly kept up with her parents. So, was calling in and checking in. He even like gave an update, like, "Your dad quit smoking and lost a bunch of weight. He's doing great. He's feeling good." He even said that they would have dinner with her parents and just catch up on things and talk about old Skylar memories. And it was just so sad. It's just so sad. Now, 2 days leading up to her death, Skylar tweeted, quote, "It really doesn't take much to piss me off," followed by, "Sick of being at fucking home. Thanks, quote unquote, friends. Love hanging out with you all." And then followed by, "Stress will be the death of me." She's 16.
Yep. Man, I remember those days.
It's just so sad.
It is so sad.
Her last tweet the day before her death said, "You doing this shit is why I will never completely trust you."
Damn.
And then she's gone. And it's just so eerie. We still have no idea what that particular tweet could have been about. We can assume all we want, but it is unclear exactly what she's talking about. Sheila and Rachel have never come forward with details about that specific tweet, at least that I could find. I really can't find a particular argument that could have been about. But the very next day, July 5th, 2012. So again, she wants to go. I'm just assuming that like the 4th of July, that's a fun holiday. Like I'm sure she wanted to go have fun with her friends on the 4th of July.
Absolutely.
And I'm assuming they excluded her from it. That's just so sad. So July 5th, 2012, after Skylar got off work at Wendy's around 10 p.m., she came home to her parents and they were watching TV. She sat down with them for a second. She kind of like hung out, kind of looked at the screen, and then she got up and she just told her parents that she was exhausted. She's going to go to bed. She gave them a big hug and kiss, told them that she loves them and good night, and then she was off to bed. Her mom didn't see her the next morning before she went to work. Her door was shut, so assuming she was sleeping, she didn't want to bother her, so she just went on to work. Her dad was working the night shift, and when he had his break mid-morning, it was their routine to have him go home, pick up Skylar so that way she could drive him back to work so she could have the car for when she needs to go to work. Because, not everybody has their own car, so my husband and I have to do this all the time. We share one car. So, yeah, this totally makes sense. This is part of their routine. So he gets home and he tries to open Skylar's door to her room, and it's locked. And her door is never locked.
Yeah, that's weird.
This was very unlike her. She is very kind to her parents. She doesn't have any issues with her parents. And this is just really unlike her. She never locked her door, and so he started knocking. He didn't hear an answer. He didn't even hear like any movement in the room. So he got a wire hanger. Remember those days with those types of locks?
Yes.
He got a wire hanger and did
You
the
can
little
credit card them types of locks too.
Yeah, but sometimes it fucks shit up or it messes up your credit card. But
It sure does.
But he opened up her door to her room and nothing had been touched. Her bed had not been slept in. And as someone who snuck out all the time,
Word.
as a teenager, I'm now at the age where I'm not necessarily just looking at this case from Skylar's point of view, but I'm also looking at this case from her parents' point of view because
Right.
I'm at that age, right
We
in
have
the middle.
teenagers, yeah.
And I have a teenage. Yeah, definitely. So I'm also thinking about the fear.
Can you believe my kids never have tried to sneak out once in their entire lives? It's weird.
Yeah.
Because, boy, I was always doing it.
It was constant. It was bad. It was real bad.
Several times a week.
Like getting your Barbies out of the closet and putting hair on the pillows and then
yes.
covering them up and making the body shapes with the pillows
I
in the
did make the
bed.
body shapes with the pillows.
Lots of times, yeah. Why is your screen removed from your window? Oh,
I don't know. What screen? What are you talking about? You know.
I want fresh air, and sometimes I don't know. I just make something up. So yeah. Obviously,
as a parent, it's so scary and out of control feeling.
It's just I couldn't imagine how scared I would be. Now, the only thing missing was obviously Skylar, but her purse and her cell phone, her charger, her clothes, her straightener, her contacts, everything that she would need if she was going somewhere was still there. So she hadn't brought anything to go away, right? She had just brought what she has on her like a normal person. So he's like, okay, well, that's kind of strange. So he calls his wife frantically and she reassures him that Skylar will come home. She's a good girl. She probably just snuck out. She's probably just with her friends,
Yeah, she's just wanting to have some fun.
Yeah. She says, well, maybe she, just fell asleep at a party or something. She won't miss work. So at least we'll wait till she, we'll call her friends. We'll see what they say, but
That is the exact response I would have. It's a very reasonable...
especially because she is a very responsible girl.
Yes.
Like she'd show up to work sick.
Man,
yeah,
I wouldn't show up to work
either.
if the wind blew funny.
Oh, I used to make up so many excuses at this age.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, her dad, David Neese, stepped outside to have a cigarette and calm down for a second. And when he stepped outside for a smoke, he looked over to the side and he saw a stool. It was Skylar's vanity stool. It's like this little seat bench thing, and it was sitting underneath her window. So obviously she had snuck out the window. Her window was like very slightly open. She had snuck out the window. I was obviously planning on coming back because she wouldn't have left the stool there had she not. So where was she? This would take months and months to find her.
Oh my God.
Months. It's disgusting how long it takes for this story to come out. Now, they called Skylar's best friend because they tried calling her phone and her phone was off. And he called a million times. It was like, Skylar, like kind of joking at first, like, Skylar, you're going to be in trouble if you don't call me. But after a while, you get scared.
It's getting scared, yeah.
So they call Skylar's best friend, Sheila, and she told them that she had no idea where Skylar was. She said that she talked to her around midnight last night, but hadn't heard back since. Skylar's parents became really concerned at this point, but by law, they had to wait. Like, she couldn't be considered a missing person at this point.
We still have those? I thought most places had gotten rid of the 24-hour mandatory waiting period.
I think this one was 48 at this point. Mm-hmm.
That's just the case is cold now.
The Amber Alert had all these other criteria.
Boy, yes, I know it. Listen, y'all, if you ever want to know how Amber Alert works, I did an episode on it.
Yeah,
go back. There are criteria that has to be met. You'd think just any missing child gets them.
You have to actually see them being abducted. Somebody has to have eyewitness of them being abducted in most places.
Yes.
That's
why they're so ineffectual.
An actual reason, physical reason why there might be like bodily harm on the child.
Yes. And I just think it just hamstrings the alert so much that they're basically ineffective and useless. Think what it recovered, like 2 children.
Yeah, because they just allow kids to run away. Like, that's okay. That's not allowed.
Infuriating.
Yeah, it was just
48 hours in this case is forever. And if you watch any crime shows at all, they say the first 48 hours are the most important and most vital.
That's why there's a show
called The First Fucking 48.
It's such a good show.
It is.
But yeah, so her parents are frantic. They're kind of just like waiting for, the time that she would have to go to her shift. I think it was like at 4:00. But they were just waiting for, around the time that she'd be clocking in to call her work to see if maybe she was there. And before they even called Wendy's, the manager at Wendy's called them.
Oh God, I'd be just terrified.
Yeah. And that was the sign. That was it. That was the moment. They called police immediately. And not long after this, Sheila called them to say, I have to confess, we snuck out last night. But I brought her back home. She said she wanted to be dropped off a couple blocks up the road so she wouldn't wake you guys when she snuck back in. So I assumed that she made it back. And then she starts like just crying and like, I hope that she's found, like I'll do anything to help, all this stuff. Skylar had been sneaking out. She had been caught sneaking out with Sheila. And so
this seemed reasonable and believable.
This totally seemed reasonable.
Although
and believable.
I tell you, the minute you said that, it made my stomach hurt.
Oh my God, it's so bad. So yeah, her and her friends like to go to this spot outside of town in the middle of the woods where they would go smoke and drink and hang out far away from civilization, so that way they wouldn't get caught. And Skylar's parents, had already gotten onto her for this. And so they totally thought that this was normal behavior. And it was. This was totally normal.
It is normal teenage behavior.
Absolutely.
For sure.
And it was normal for Skylar. Like, Skylar in the moment, this was normal. But her not coming back, that was not normal.
Yeah.
That's the part that was really messed up here. So she was thinking like, okay, well, she was probably abducted in those 2 blocks on her walk home. We just did a month on abductions, and like, how many times have we seen it happen
just right by the
fucking
damn
there?
house. Practically at the end of people's driveways.
And a lot of times it's just people passing by.
Exactly.
Just coincidence.
So I mean, that sounds perfectly reasonable. Terrifying, but reasonable.
Absolutely. And so Sheila and her mother came over and they began searching for Skylar immediately. They began canvassing the neighborhood because, again, Sheila is basically family, right?
Yeah, exactly. They've been buddies for like 8 years.
Second grade. Yeah, exactly. So they go door to door, block by block, asking anybody and everybody they can see, have you seen Skylar? This is what she looks like. Nothing. Skylar's parents began working with the investigators on the case right away. They pulled up surveillance videos of their apartment building. And even though it was pretty grainy and hard to see like all the details, they did have a view of Skylar leaving around 12:30 a.m., not 11 like Sheila had said. She said that she had picked her up at around 11 and dropped her off around midnight. So there's this video.
There's a big time discrepancy
of her leaving at 12:30. So did she, get picked up and dropped off at a different location and then come back out at 12:30 to get picked up by somebody else? They couldn't tell what the make and model of the car was. At first, they even thought it was an SUV. Like, looking at the video now, it looks like a car. But,
probably looks like it's filmed it with a potato.
Yes, and these are brand new security cameras, but it's 2012, so you get what you get. But at least they could tell from the footage that Skylar was walking, like almost running up to the car. So this was something that she wanted to go do. This was something that she was looking forward. Like, this was excitement. She knew the person in the car, and because of that, they couldn't do an Amber Alert.
Damn it.
She didn't qualify.
Yeah, she doesn't.
Because this means that she could have been a runaway. She left willingly.
Which with a minor child shouldn't fucking matter given how groomers are. So I would just encourage everybody, if you are upset with the state of Amber Alerts, how ineffectual they are and how you're tricked into believing that they're helpful when they're actually not because of these strict criteria, write into your representatives and tell them we need a change because we do.
Yes.
Runaway children are still missing children. They are minors. They should not be running away from home. They need to be brought home. The end.
1,000%.
Yup.
So yeah, they felt helpless, to say the least.
Jesus.
They started posting missing persons flyers everywhere, basically having to do their own investigative work. Just absolutely heartbreaking. Not only is their daughter out there somewhere, but they have to find it.
Yeah.
Find her. So, yeah. Sheila helped with the investigation. She helped with everything. She was over at that house all the time.
So creepy.
Notice Rachel's nowhere to be found.
I've noticed.
She even came over to ask if she could just sit in Skylar's room. And Skylar's mom found her just sobbing in Skylar's room. And she just went in there and held her. Held her like she was her own child. Just cradled that little girl.
Ugh.
By July 9th of 2012, she had still not come home, so the police and the FBI started investigating Skylar's disappearance. They honestly thought, oh, well, the kid left on a Friday. She'll show up by Monday and go to school.
Why do they always think this when it's never the thing that happens?
It's just lazy. It's just fucking lazy.
It's lazy.
And honestly, like, the police in this got an ass tearing for it too.
Good.
Yeah, you can see, like, there's a female cop that's on one of the documentaries about it, and she kind of like is really watching her words and trying to, like, I don't know, make up for what she did somehow. But yeah,
it's inexcusable.
So they started the investigation. FBI and everything got involved, and they instantly, as soon as they looked at everything, they wanted to talk to Skylar and Rachel. Obviously, I mean Sheila and Rachel.
Yeah, and the last ones who supposedly
exactly. Those are her best friends. They should know
why
everything.
They weren't talked to immediately is beyond me.
Well, because the investigation hadn't started.
I know, makes me mad. Sorry.
But as soon as the investigation did start, they were the first ones to be talked to.
Good, because obviously.
Yeah. So Sheila was brought in first for questioning. One of the detectives first noted that she seemed to have a lot of narcissistic traits, and that something just didn't seem right from the very beginning, the instant she walked in that room.
Yeah.
They tried to question Rachel, but she had already left for church camp. So they had to do a phone interview until they could meet in person. And on the phone interview, she seemed very short with her responses, very vague. Like, they'd ask her questions. She'd be like, oh, I don't really know. Like,
very glib, yeah.
Like, you'll have to talk to Sheila. She knows more than I do. Like, very detached from the situation. And Sheila's, like, all about the situation. it's just a very
Like
strange...
Sheila has almost inserted herself too much, and Rachel is trying to distance herself.
Textbook.
Both giant red flags, by the way.
Yeah, but she had to promise the FBI, basically, that investigators, that she would come in for a formal interview as soon as she got back from church camp, which she didn't come on her own accord. They had to go looking for her. So they brought her in, and when she did sit down for the interview, it was verbatim what Sheila had said. She never strayed from the story. She stuck to the exact same scripted responses the entire time. She never once strayed. And I'm talking interview after interview after interview, because this is a very long, investigation.
Thing, yeah.
It's almost a year-long investigation. So at school, everyone gave their condolences to Rachel and Sheila. They looked so sad. Like Sheila, everybody said that Sheila was just beside herself, distraught, and moping around, posting sad things on Twitter, saying that, they miss their best friend. Mostly Sheila keeping constant contact with Skylar's family, always wanting to be updated about the case. And then, Rachel just kind of trying not to exist.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all the rumors, this is high school, right? Your high school student goes missing. So the rumor mill is just churning, right?
Oh, of course,
There's just rumors going crazy. So everything from Skylar running away with some boyfriend to being abducted, sold into sex trafficking, everyone just wanted answers. So they were just throwing all kinds of wild speculations. There was even a bank robbery in a town close by that was right around the same time. So they even had these wild theories. Even the police got involved, thinking that maybe Skylar was in with one of the guys that did the bank robbery, and so she helped them rob this bank, and they're on the run. If you saw Skylar, and if you saw any of the videos of Skylar or understood Skylar's personality, this is just way
Not
too
what she
over the
would
top.
do.
She's such a gentle person. I don't know. This is just way, way too over the top. But they were literally just trying to pull for anything. Skylar's parents really didn't believe that she was a runaway, obviously. She had left all of her belongings, and she would just never leave like that. And when people's speculations turned to Sheila and Rachel, at first a lot of people thought that maybe they had partied too hard and maybe Skylar OD'd.
Yeah, and then they left
And
her
then they
somewhere
left.
because they were scared. I mean, that would make sense.
That's the story that most people believed the majority of this investigation. So not to repeat myself throughout the entire time, but one by one, people are starting to believe that as the main rumor.
Yeah, makes sense.
These girls were getting pulled out of class. Even the FBI was coming to the school, pulling them out of class, asking them questions periodically, just keeping updates on the case, that kind of thing. So rumors are going to go around, and Skylar's parents defended the girls. Skylar's dad begged them to leave the poor girls alone, saying that their friend is missing, let them be children and grieve. That they basically cradled these girls in their arms as if they were Skylar's own sisters. And they were more worried about Skylar's friends and how they were going to deal with her disappearance than they were their own grief.
Yeah, I can see that.
Skylar had such good parents.
She really does.
They really are good people. But Sheila and Rachel were far from victims in this case. Obviously, they were the killers. Soon, they went on with their lives as if nothing happened, and they played the role of heartbroken victims so well that they were actually believed for a while. That next school year without Sheila was so hard on everyone except Sheila and Rachel. Sure, they seemed really messed up at first while searching for Skylar, but when it came down to school and social situations, they seemed fine. Sure, they tweeted about Skylar every now and then, and they even seemed they seemed better than ever, honestly. It was just really weird. They started filming each other, just doing weird shit, eating food and driving around, and it was almost like they were acting like they were free. It was just really strange.
Ew.
And Sheila especially seemed very fine. She seemed way more confident than ever. And anytime they were questioned, they both stuck to the story like a T, unwavering. They never changed their story. They never added to it. Sheila specifically just stayed very confident in her story and was even flirting with investigators and like,
Ew.
you got to keep me updated on the case and like weird stuff like that. So the investigators knew something was up. They knew they were lying. It was just so obvious. But I think that because of their age, they're naive to how obvious they were being.
They thought they were being slick and clever.
Right. But investigators obviously could see right through it. They just had to get evidence. They had to prove it. They just thought that they were like maybe lying about some things. I don't think that they could have ever guessed what really happened. But by September 3rd, they issued a warrant to seize all of Sheila and Rachel's cell phones and computers, any type of communication devices for testing. And simultaneously, they started gathering security footage from nearby businesses to kind of piece together the route that this car goes on. So they're kind of just like watching security and following this car around. And they did find video footage from a nearby gas station, and it does show more clearly that it is Sheila's car, and they're actually heading in the opposite direction of what they had said in their story.
Not adding up.
Their cell phone records also showed pings going that way, that the video footage showed the car going. So they kind of had that synced up perfectly. So now they knew that they were lying, but they couldn't figure out why. They really started to assume that the girls had gone, out somewhere. They had just partied too hard. They really, really hung on this idea that maybe Skylar had just accidentally overdosed, and maybe this is what the girls are hiding. They brought the girls in for questioning more frequently, and Sheila literally never broke. She just stayed her confident and flirty self. But Rachel began slowly breaking down and crumbling. She was nervous. One interview with Rachel, she randomly changed her story and said, "And then Skylar ran off into the woods and we chased after her, but we couldn't find her." And they were like,
Uh-oh.
okay, how? How did this come about? So then, now that this has changed the entire narrative, the entire timeline, then they go and they get Sheila and they bring her in for questioning to clarify. Sheila tells the exact same story that Rachel says, verbatim. So they're like, well, they're lying again. So they decided to give a polygraph test. Now, we all know what polygraph tests do, but they worked the way that they're meant to in this case. Not by actually taking the test, but by intimidating.
Yep.
So they gave the polygraph test to Sheila, and she failed. Hard fail. But she was confident. She didn't give a fuck. She was just deceitful the entire time. Now, Rachel, her dad wanted to bring her into her lawyer's office first, take the lawyer to go do the polygraph test with the lawyer present, which, of course, is a smarter move. Now, they're on the way to the lawyer's office, and Rachel jumps out of the fucking car and takes off running to Sheila's house. Not to talk to Sheila, but talk to Sheila's mother. Because Sheila's mother has been actively working to slow this case down, possibly believing that her daughter either was involved in an accident or wasn't guilty or
That's so weird.
Yeah, but Rachel ran to Sheila's mother for help. Just absolute insanity. So because of this and Sheila's weird attitude throughout the investigation, Rachel's parents didn't trust Sheila. Like, to the point where they didn't want their daughter being around Sheila, and her parents were divorced. Her dad actually thought that he lived too close to Sheila, so he moved in to her mother's house. So that way she didn't even have the opportunity to go live at her dad's house and therefore be even close to Sheila. That's how much they didn't want their daughter around Sheila.
Damn.
I think this is a very bold move. I would never move in with my ex.
Hell no.
So you couldn't pay me any of the monies to do that. But he was like, no, this is to protect his daughter type thing. And the anxiety from all of this, they didn't even tell their daughter, Rachel, that her dad was moving back in the house. And for some reason, all of this just made her snap. She just couldn't take it anymore. She began to lash out at her parents so much that her mom had to lock her in her own room. She was like throwing threats around, like just screaming her head off. Her mom had to call 911 to have them come get her daughter. She was like, I can't control this girl anymore. She's out of control. Her dad's trying to hold her down. She's like grabbing for the phone. You can hear in the background, she's like screaming her head off.
Wow.
It's a complete breakdown.
Does sound like a complete mental
It is
breakdown.
absolute complete breakdown. Rachel was taken to a psychiatric center for treatment. Sheila even tried to see Rachel in the treatment center, but the hospital was told ahead of time not to allow Sheila anywhere near Rachel.
Fucking good.
When Rachel was released 5 days later, her parents picked her up and drove her straight to her lawyer's office immediately. No stop. And she was going to take the polygraph test.
Yeah.
So after a few questions in this polygraph test, out of nowhere, Rachel just blurted out, "We stabbed her."
Oh my God.
Yeah. And all the investigators were just like that. They were like, what? Because again, they're thinking that these are just some dumb teenage
And this is
girls and
all
it's a
an
big
accident.
accident and
Yeah.
they made the mistake and,
But
no, we stabbed her. Then she told them everything that happened. She told them that they had originally spent spring break together. Now, again, this incident happened in July, summer break. She brings up spring break months before.
that's how long they'd been planning this.
She says that they spent spring break together and fought the entire time. And on the way back, Rachel and Sheila had a conversation about how they just didn't like Skylar anymore. They just didn't like her. And they discussed how they were going to kill her. For months, they planned this. And they actually chose that day because they wanted to get it over with before she went to church camp.
That's fucked.
Isn't that disgusting?
It's gross.
They went to their normal spot in the woods. This is where they would go every single time. This is a spot that Skylar felt comfortable at, that she had gone to several times. They got out of the car. They were going to get ready to smoke some weed, and they realized that they left their lighter in the car. Skylar turned around to go to the car to go grab a lighter, and Rachel and Sheila counted to 3. And on 3, they pulled out kitchen knives and started stabbing their best friend in the back. Literally stabbing her in the back.
Disgusting.
They
Horrific.
stabbed her approximately 50 times.
Poor baby.
And I say approximately, they found, I mean, it was so many months later, it was just skeletal remains. So it's really hard
They're
to
just
determine
counting the
exactly.
ones that made it to the bone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They stabbed her over and over and over again. And at one point, Rachel stopped and just watched, and Sheila continued stabbing. Then they just sat there and watched Skylar bleed out on the forest floor.
Can't imagine.
They had planned on burying her. They had brought everything. They brought the shovel. They brought the bleach. They brought, the gloves, the change of clothes. They brought everything. It was all premeditated. And the only thing that they didn't plan ahead was the fact that the ground was really rocky there. So they couldn't dig.
Yeah.
So they just dragged her body over to a spot and covered her with twigs and leaves and left. They went down to the creek nearby. They washed themselves. They changed their clothes. And they just left her. They went home. Like it was nothing.
What gets me is you can do something so heinous like that and then just live your life.
And just live your life.
I can't fucking
Because they just
imagine.
lived their fucking life. Like, so much, it's just ridiculous. And the only thing that Skylar was able to say during this attack was why. Why? Why? And investigators said the same thing.
We'll
They were
never
like,
know the answer to
why?
that. They don't know why even, I don't think.
No, I think they know why. But when they asked, Rachel just said, we don't like her anymore. We just don't like her. That's not good
Jesus.
enough.
That's not good enough for me either.
That's not good enough.
When I don't like somebody, I just don't, hang out with them anymore.
No, it wasn't just not liking.
I'm
You
figuring.
can just leave if
Yeah.
you don't like someone.
Something had to have happened.
During the investigation, detectives recovered Skylar's journal, which she wrote a lot about Sheila. Specifically about her active sex life, Sheila was very promiscuous as a teenager, and Skylar seemed very intrigued by this. She kind of went into extreme detail about the sexual acts that Sheila had gotten into. And just as an aside, because a lot of adults were talking about this, I think it's really weird for adults to read children's diaries and stuff like that, but I understand for the investigation.
Yeah.
But I was a very sexually active because I was sexually assaulted as a teenager. I was very sexually active, and I mean, I didn't know the difference. It was probably a coping mechanism, but I was one of those teenagers.
And I will put it out there, too, that being sexually active, including having as many partners as you want, is also not necessarily indicative of sexual abuse.
No, it's not, but
It's okay.
But because of my sexual abuse,
Yes.
that is how I ended
You
up
acted
treating
out,
it.
yeah.
I ended up just being as active as possible to kind of cover it up for myself to cope. But I'm just saying that I had a lot of friends that were like Skylar,
Mm-hmm.
that were like innocent and couldn't imagine the things that I was going through.
I was in
so
high
they were
school.
amazed by me.
I was
And so
amazed by
I
my more
understand-
promiscuous friends.
So many people were weirded out by some of the entries in Skylar's journal, and I'm not at all. I find it very
No.
normal.
I was absolutely obsessed with my friend. I had a best friend named Rachel, and I was absolutely obsessed with all of her sexual escapades, and not in a judgy way. I just thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, she's so
Yeah.
free.
Yeah, and you can learn a lot vicariously. Well,
Yeah.
you know.
I never judged her for it, and I
Right.
thought it was kind of cool, but I didn't think that I was capable of that. And I'm not
Right.
going to get into me, but I don't find it weird at all.
No,
At all.
no. But one entry did stick out. And it did kind of line up with a lot of tweets that were passive aggressive that didn't really, on the surface, have rhyme or reason. But after this, they kind of gave the rhyme and the reason. So there was an entry in her journal around fall of the previous year when the three girls were hanging out at one of the girls' houses. They had stolen liquor from the parents' liquor cabinet and were hiding in the bathroom, drinking, having a good time, getting super drunk. And Sheila and Rachel started making out.
Yeah.
This is totally normal. I used to do
Yes,
it all
it
the
is.
time too.
I made out with a lot of friends.
Yeah.
And it was funny. That is exactly what ended my friendship dynamic.
Really?
My little trio is they started being kind of sexually active together and excluding me because I was asexual as a teenager.
Right. Well, this particular event, they locked Skylar in the bathroom with them while they kept having sex.
Oh, no, that's assault. That's a form of assault.
Yes, that is.
That's abusing.
That
a friend.
is. That is very much not okay.
As almost if to punish her. Mm-hmm. That's gross. I don't like
As if
that.
to, like, if she's not going to join in,
Then we're going to force you to watch. That's assault.
it's not okay.
It is not okay.
And, you know, Skylar wrote about this because she's like, look, it's not that I'm like, you know, I don't like girls making out or being together. It's nothing like that. It's like, why do I have to be in the room, you know?
It was a way to weirdly exclude her while having her there at the same time.
See why you're excluded. This is now you know why you're excluded.
Oh, that's so fucked
Because
up.
we don't think that you're hot or something like that. Because you know how girls are back then. Like,
Oh, I do.
so yeah, after this incident, you can tell that the friendship changed. This is around the time that she started getting excluded. This is around the time that they really started to kind of rev up their Skylar hatred.
My God.
Yeah. And this is when the tweets started flying and everything just kind of started going downhill. But it was gradual, you know, from like around October time to July is when the incident happened. It was during that entire time that,
Wow.
yeah. And it's widely believed that she knew things and they both had boyfriends. So it's likely they killed her because she was the one that knew. She had too much information And they didn't
And they
want
were
it to come
afraid
out.
the word would get out. They'd be made fun of for being gay.
They're in the church.
They're
you
in
know?
the church. It's wrong. And then their boyfriends will break up with them. Everyone at school will make fun of them. Their
Right.
parents will get on to them. It's a really good motive. It's a really good
And
motive.
some of Skylar's tweets, I forgot to actually quote them because I wasn't gonna, but I have screenshots of some of them. But one of Skylar's tweets was basically like, if you guys knew what I knew, kind of thing, you know.
Yeah, that's creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, once they got a confession from Rachel, they didn't arrest her immediately because, again, she's already lied before. They don't have solid proof yet.
They want to
But-
go collect some evidence.
But they've got her, you know, they've got her. They had to get physical evidence. So they asked Rachel if she would take them to the body. She agreed. But the ground was covered in snow because by this time it's like December, January time. And the exact location she couldn't find because of the snow. So they had to wait until the snow melted to find her.
It's just excruciating.
January 4th, the investigators seized all of the knives from Sheila's house as well as her car. They found blood in the trunk of the car and had it tested. And of course, that takes a while, but it was later determined that it was Skylar's blood. But they still needed a confession from Sheila as well. And Sheila was not going to just hand that over easily. So they had to go through Rachel. They actually had Rachel wear a wire to go see Sheila, but I am assuming they had their ways of communicating off mic that there was a microphone. I'm sure she just showed it to her because there was no incriminating conversation that was had. Either Rachel just got nervous and didn't bring it up, or Rachel, you know, indicated. Sheila also knew that something was up, so, you know, she is smart. I'll give her that. Now, soon after that, the snow melted. The detectives went back to the location that Rachel had taken them, and they did end up finding the skeletonized remains of Skylar Neese, verified through dental records. And because the investigation still required a bit more time to tie up loose ends, you know, get all of the facts in order, Rachel and Sheila were ordered to stay home, to be homeschooled, so that way they couldn't see each other, and they were like strictly to remain separated, which is obviously very important for this case. In March of 2013, investigators released a press release that Skylar Neese's remains were found, and the community just fell apart because up until that point they had hope. You know, they were always going to have hope until confirmation. And even Sheila showed up to the candlelight like memorial thing. That Sheila and Rachel showed up to it, and Sheila kept trying to claim her innocence, even though the whispers were, you know,
saying otherwise,
going around. Yeah, she tweeted a long post about how Skylar like was her best friend and how could she go on without her, and this is the worst day of my life. But then a couple weeks later, Sheila tweeted, quote, "We really did go on 3."
My God.
Bragging about it.
That's fucked.
Absolutely vile behavior. And there's some other tweets too that
That are hinting at it.
Now, May 1st of 2013, Rachel turned herself in as she had agreed. Her plea deal was that she got second-degree murder and was charged as an adult. She had a recommended sentence of 20 years, and Sheila was arrested at Cracker Barrel with her mother. I just find that part funny.
I do too.
As she's getting arrested, she turned to her mother and said, "Is it going to be okay?" And her mom just said, "I don't know, baby.
I don't know what I would do if I had a child that did something like that. I can't think which is worse, to be honest with you.
And yeah, then they handcuffed her and charged her with first-degree murder.
Good.
Sheila was indicted on 1 count kidnapping, 1 count first-degree murder, and 1 count conspiracy to commit murder, and charged as an adult as well. She pled not guilty. But then her court date got pushed back, and in that amount of time, she was like, "Okay, never mind."
Yeah, it was really stacked against her at that point.
She took a plea deal, settling on guilty for first-degree murder. She was sentenced to life in prison, but was eligible for parole in 15 years, so that's coming up soon. Rachel got 30 years in prison, but eligible after 10, which is this year. She actually was supposed to be in court today, but it got pushed back to May 9th.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So this is
it's like right
recently,
now,
like
right now. Yeah. And this is her parole hearing. There are over 32,000 of the 35,000 signatures needed for the petition to keep her in prison. So I have that petition linked. I've already signed it.
Sign it.
Definitely sign it.
Happily.
We only need 3,000 more.
We can do it.
We can totally do that.
So come on, teabags, let's go.
Yeah, let's all sign that. Let's keep her in. I don't care how many times she cries. She cried and offered an apology at the sentencing hearing, and Skylar Niece's dad stepped up and was basically no, she can take that apology and sit on it because basically fuck you, you're disgusting. How dare
Vile.
you? Mm-hmm.
Vile. Something really, really desperately wrong with that child.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, David Niece, Skylar's dad, he does plan on going to this court case on May 9th and speaking. He told local news, quote, "When you mix evil and insanity, you get things like this. And that's exactly what those two girls are. If you release them, I am positive they will kill again."
Absolutely. With Rachel, I don't know. I feel like she's one of those people that can be easily led and easily manipulated. But with Sheila, there's something deeply, disturbingly, intrinsically wrong.
Oh, yeah. And Sheila on Twitter right now is insane. There are so many pages dedicated to Sheila, and there are an entire army of people that are Team Sheila. It's literally
it's that cult of personality.
Yes,
it's that cult of personality.
And they even have a Sheila and Rachel. Excuse me, Sheila and Rachel page.
You know what? I'm just done. I need the apocalypse because this should not be allowed to exist.
It's really fucked up, dude. It's really fucked up. They call her their queen. Multiple people are oh my God, I want to be just like Sheila. What the
fuck's wrong with you?
And the main page that they use for her, the bio says, "I love true crime."
Oh my God.
What? And then right underneath it says, "We do not condone the actions of Sheila. We love you, Skylar. Wish you weren't murdered, but also wish Sheila was out of prison." What the fuck? No.
Nah.
No. So one good thing did come from this case, and I know you're going to like it.
Good.
This case would have been really good for last year's theme of the laws that were changed.
I love laws that are changed.
So her parents, Skylar's parents, used their daughter's tragedy to make a positive change in the Amber Alert system for West Virginia. So it's state by state. So obviously they couldn't do it nationwide. But Skylar's law was put into effect recently, and it basically takes away the 24-hour wait period, and for any child who goes missing or might be endangered to immediately be registered on an Amber Alert system, regardless if they have information of a kidnapping or anything. Even if they might be a runaway, who fucking cares? Immediate Amber Alert.
I mean, it would not have saved Skylar.
No.
But it would save so many others.
Exactly.
And it at least might have got them their child's body before it became skeletal remains.
Right.
And it would have helped investigators collect much more evidence that wouldn't be degraded by time.
Exactly.
And then all of this wouldn't have been drug out so long.
Right.
So I'm a big proponent of all that shit.
It's just one of those cases where it's just
so depressing.
Such a sad. The victim is just such a beautiful, kind-hearted soul, and it's just one of those things where, something good came out of such a horrendous thing.
Why did this have to happen?
But why did it have to come to this?
Well,
why did all of this have to happen for you guys to take things seriously?
I have lots of guesses, but I'm not going to go down that road. I'm not going to get on a soapbox today.
Hey, if you guys want to see extra pictures and everything for the case, definitely hit up our Patreon. I can only post a handful.
And those are going to be public posts, y'all. We didn't take those pictures. We're not going to make money off them. That's silly.
Yeah.
But there we can control the content a little bit better. I include things when applicable, like autopsy reports, transcripts.
Right. Obviously, we don't have that for this case, but we can post as many photos as we want. Obviously, we can't do that on Instagram.
No.
But yeah, follow us on Instagram too. We're almost to 1,000, and I just
Please
really
make it
want
1,000. It would be really cool.
It would be so cool. Share our information. I don't know. Tag us in stories. If you get any merch, please tag us.
Wearing it.
I want to see your cute faces and our cute T-shirts.
That's right. Or a mug or whatever. Speaking of merch and stuff, it's business time.
Yeah.
Yes.
I tried. I tried.
I know, but we're just going to transition on all sloppy.
Yeah.
Just barging in,
You know,
hand up the dress, sloppy. But that's how we like it. Well, that's how I like it. Anyway, that was terrible, and I apologize.
No.
So merch. We have merch. We have T-shirts. We have mugs. We have all kinds of stuff. You can find that in our Linktree, because somebody today in Discord was asking, how does Linktree work? I'm going to tell you right now how
Click
it
on
works. You click it, and then there'll be other links, and you can click on those.
You scroll, and you'll find the link that you want.
And there's a good description for every link. There's our coffee account. If you like, hey, I realize this took emotional labor, and I should like to give you $5.
You know what? These girls need a coffee. Listen to them.
These girls do need a coffee.
Girl.
It's been bleak. Also, you'll find my website. And what's on my website? Why, soap.
Everything.
But not just soap. Other things, perfume oils, bath bombs, hand-blended teas, jewelry, art, you name it. I probably do it. Go look at it. If for no other reason than to go look at it and go, huh. But if you use coupon code CRUEL, CRUEL, at checkout, you get 10% off, because I love you. That's why. And me and Maris write books. Some of them are free. Some of them are not. Go read them and tell me what you think. I like hearing from you guys, especially Maris. Please go read his books. He's a little sad panda because he thinks no one cares about his books. And I want to show him that that's not true. Because literally the reason I married him sight unseen is because he's such a good writer, and I would like to share the joy of Maris with everyone. But if all you can do to support this podcast is listen, thank you, and I love and appreciate you very much.
Absolutely.
But if you're ever on Reddit, say, and you're like,
or any platform that says, hey, y'all, I could really use a podcast suggestion. I know podcast suggestions are always being asked. So
hold on. So I know we have some listeners that found us via Reddit, okay?
I just
want to say I am in all those Reddits, and I am watching, and I like it. Thank you. Well, I always hear like people like about their favorite podcasters wonder, do you think they're in this Reddit? I'm in it. Yeah. And you know what? I bet the other podcasters are, they're in there. I'm in there.
Everybody's in there. We're all in there.
I'm searching up our name in Reddit, and I'm going, oh.
It's like that like dark room, and you think you're alone, but you turn on the lights, and there's like 1,000 people like mouth breathing. Yeah.
Yes, that's me.
Like, yeah.
I'm at your window. Yeah. No, I'm not. I'm very lazy. Anyway, hey, we love you guys.
Thank you for telling your friends. It just means so much to us, because we don't have more friends than us to go tell. So
not really. No, I've made friends from this podcast.
Right, but
that's just amazing.
I'm not going to tell them about my podcast. So
they already know. I'm going to trip her on the way out of this house.
I'm so tired.
She is tired. She's delirious. Anyway, send us some love or don't, and just love you. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us. And you know what? We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Find us on your social media platform of choice. Linktree/cruelty has all the links. Check out our Patreon for exclusive episodes, merch, ad-free episodes, live ghost hunts, and much more. Please be sure to subscribe. New episodes are uploaded weekly. Thank you so much. See you next time. Music and production by Lee.